03 pondered for a moment, still unable to figure out this problem. However, since the king's treasury had shown unusual activity, it indicated that something had indeed happened inside, which could potentially become their opportunity to take control of the king's treasury. 03 and 04 exchanged glances and quickly descended toward the king turtle below. Someone's there. 04 narrowed his eyes, keenly spotting an injured figure emerging from the gaps in the king turtle's shell, staggering out, seemingly intending to drop directly into the sea. That's one of the agents I sent in. 03 quickly recognized number 22 and spoke with surprise. The mark should have activated by now. How is he still alive? He should know what happened in the treasury. Let's capture him and ask. The two deities transformed into streams of light, quickly flashing to appear before number 22. Number 22, who had just escaped death, saw the two divine light streams rapidly approaching and his expression immediately darkened. Even though the 3 days had already passed, these two were still waiting outside? Number 22 cursed silently, instinctively wanting to strike with the scepter in his hand, but after a moment's hesitation he tucked it into his clothes, concealing it. Number 22 knew very well that while the king's scepter could seize the divine power of the two deities, even gods without divine power could easily crush an injured human like him. Rashly using this scepter would not only fail to help him escape but might also provoke their killing intent. However, his movements were observed by the two deities. 03 descended in front of number 22, his gaze sweeping over his body. You actually managed to come out unharmed. How did you remove my mark? And what are you hiding in your clothes? Number 22's heart skipped a beat. His mind raced as he was about to speak, when suddenly more explosions erupted from beneath the king turtle's shell. 03 and 04's attention was immediately drawn away. Who else is in there? 03 frowned and asked. 3 more Sumerian deities. Number 22 seized the change of topic and immediately replied, they've been hiding in the treasury, secretly recovering their strength. They're the ones controlling the king's treasury now. Hearing this, the two deities' expressions changed. Sumerian gods? Didn't they disappear long ago? 03 hesitated for a moment, then turned to 04 and said, you keep watch outside, I'll try to go in and see. We cannot let them have the treasury no matter what. Just then a voice drifted down from the sky. The king's treasury, plus 2 Olympian major gods. Si Xiaonan's information was indeed correct. 03, who was about to enter the king turtle, and 04 both contracted their pupils and sharply looked up toward the sky. Above the sea surface, 4 divine figures slowly emerged from the mist. The one speaking was a blond man wearing a red cape and holding a silver hammer. Thor. 03 immediately recognized him, then scanned the other 3, his expression growing increasingly grim. War god Tyr, blind god Hodder, forest god Vidar. Asgardians, why are you here? If you could find this place, why couldn't we? War god Tyr coldly replied. These 4 Norse gods walked across the sea surface and stood directly in front of 03 and 04. 4 divine auras pressed down upon them from above, each one no weaker than their own. They also want to seize the king's treasury. What should we do? Kill them? Blind god Hodder calmly asked. As he spoke, a cold killing intent like a venomous snake eerily crept up the necks of 03 and 04. Their eyes narrowed slightly and their expressions grew even more difficult. From this completely unleashed killing intent, they could clearly sense that blind god Hodder was serious. He truly wanted to kill them. I think we should, War god Tyr continued. These 2 are most likely acting on Zeus's orders, secretly searching for the king's treasury. Otherwise, how would they dare to capture so many agents at once? Since they're operating in secret, if we kill them here, no one would know. Even if Zeus wants to settle accounts later, he won't be able to trace it back to Asgard. Hearing this analysis, 03's face paled and he warned coldly. What do you mean? We Olympians and you Asgardians are allies. The war isn't even over and you're already plotting against your allies. Thor silently observed them for a moment, then slowly spoke. There's no need to kill them. We've just set our sights on the same thing. Whoever gets it, keeps it. Let's just restrain these 2 for now. As Thor finished speaking, the 3 major gods beside him attacked 03 and 04 simultaneously. Under the pressure of 4 deities, 03 and 04 retreated repeatedly, But at this point, they had no choice but to face the challenge head-on. Several divine powers clashed and intertwined, and a battle of gods suddenly erupted in the mist. Boom! As the final King's Law unfolded, moon god Nana's moonlight domain began to tremble out of control. Gilgamesh, wearing a gray-gold royal robe and wielding a red sword, stepped forward slowly. The moonlight on both sides completely escaped Nana's control, receding like tides. Looking at the ashen-faced Nana, he calmly said, "Back then, even 3 Sumerian major gods working together couldn't defeat me. Are you worthy to be my opponent?" He stomped forward and the surrounding moonlight domain shattered inch by inch. Nana, suffering backlash from his own divine domain, violently spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered back several steps. Those angry eyes stared fixedly at Gilgamesh as he said in a deep voice, "So what? No matter how powerful you were back then, didn't you still die of old age? Do you think I can't see that you're just a phantom of the past summoned by someone's techniques? The duration of your phantom form shouldn't be very long, right?" "Not long," Gilgamesh calmly replied, "but to kill you it's enough." Gilgamesh's form transformed into a gray-gold lightning bolt, instantly teleporting in front of Nana. The latter instinctively activated his divine domain, and endless moonlight surged from behind him, forming a crescent moon in front of him, trying to block Gilgamesh's attack. But with a flick of Gilgamesh's finger, the moonlight rapidly distorted, shattering into strands that encircled his body, like subjects kneeling before their king. "Before me, even divine domains are fragile." Gilgamesh's eyes flashed, and the red sword in his hand transformed into a stream of fire, instantly slicing through moon god Nana's head. The next moment, a head filled with terror and resentment was thrown high from the endless moonlight. Gilgamesh glanced at the corpse of the moon god Nana, then turned to look at another battlefield. A golden red staff struck down like lightning, raising countless grains of sand. When the dust settled, the fire god Bilge's body lay mangled in a deep crevice in the ground. Sun Wukong, holding his golden cudgel, slowly walked out from the dust, his expression somewhat displeased. This time, Gilgamesh calmly began. "You won." Sun Wukong glanced at Nana's corpse and said flatly, "It seems you were indeed formidable at your peak. Recover soon and we'll have a proper face-to-face match." With that, he shouldered his golden cudgel and turned to walk in another direction. Gilgamesh watched Sun Wukong's departing figure and suddenly called out, "Sun Wukong." Sun Wukong stopped and looked back. "Speak." Gilgamesh was silent for a moment. "Thank you." Sun Wukong didn't respond, his eyes slightly narrowed. "If not for you, my people would have been slaughtered." Gilgamesh paused. "Thank you for saving my Uruk and for saving me." "Humph." Sun Wukong shouldered his golden cudgel and continued walking away. "It was nothing, no need for thanks." After taking just a few steps, he seemed to sense something and looked up at the gap in the treasury in the sky. Divine power fluctuations. Are there more gods outside? Gilgamesh also keenly noticed the anomaly outside, his brow slightly furrowing, and more than one. 6 divine auras in total. Sun Wukong's eyes flashed with golden light. It seems someone wants to play the opportunist. 6. Lin Chia, who had just arrived, heard this and frowned in confusion. Numbers 03 and 04 should only be 2 people. Where did the other 4 come from? Sun Wukong gripped his golden cudgel, his golden eyes narrowing. He turned to look at Lin Chia. "Lin Chia, what do you think? Should we fight or leave?" Lin Chia glanced at the star coin that was about to stop spinning and fell into deep thought. If Sun Wukong and Gilgamesh were both at their peak, breaking through the encirclement wouldn't be difficult, but now it's different. Even if Gilgamesh understood his past self well and could maintain his memories for a long time, once the star coin stopped, he would still be forced to return to his soul state. And no matter how strong Sun Wukong was, he couldn't fight 6 opponents alone. Fighting was definitely not an option, and even how to escape from here needed careful planning. After thinking for a moment, Lin Chia said, "I have an idea." In the mist, the surging divine power gradually subsided, dense water droplets fell from the sky, and a long sword was already at number 03's throat. The one-armed war god Tyr narrowed his eyes at number 03, whose face had turned pale. Beside him, number 04 was already being held by the throat by the blind god Hr. Against 4 with just 2, Numbers 03 and 04 had no chance of winning and could only be easily subdued by the Norse gods, becoming prisoners. There's movement inside the shell. The king's treasury must be about to emerge, the forest god Vidar said solemnly, staring at the trembling king turtle. Thor walked up to number 22, his deep blue eyes seeming to pierce through his thoughts. You said earlier that there are Sumerian deities inside? That's right. Number 22, having witnessed the power of the Norse gods, had no intention of resisting and nodded. They resurrected Gilgamesh to control this treasury. When number 22 fled the battlefield, the 3 Sumerian deities had just resurrected Gilgamesh's corpse. He knew nothing about Sun Wukong's emergence or the appearance of the second hero king, only that there were several terrifying divine powers clashing, suggesting a great battle had taken place. Gilgamesh? Hearing this name, Thor's eyes showed surprise. Just then the king turtle shook again, its enormous body creating a tsunami on the sea surface, with the surrounding water churning violently like boiling water. The 4 Norse gods simultaneously looked toward the crevice in the king turtle's shell. A purple light flew into the sky, transforming into a figure wearing a gray-gold royal robe and crown. The terrifying King Law descended upon the world. In his hand, a miniaturized broken treasury silently rotated. The king's treasury? Gilgamesh. The 4 Norse gods and the 2 captured Olympian deities exclaimed in surprise at this sight. The ancient hero king has truly been resurrected? Thor sensed the aura of the Gingvlaw, his brow tightly furrowed. The king's treasury was originally the hero king's divine artifact. Now that hero king Gilgamesh had been resurrected, the treasury naturally returned to his hands, and only the king Law could activate it. Gilgamesh, holding the king's treasury, turned to look at the 6 deities, his purple eyes narrowing slightly. What do you intend to do? After a moment of silence, Thor spoke up. May I ask, are you the hero king Gilgamesh? I am indeed, Gilgamesh's deep voice echoed in the air. I heard that 3 Sumerian deities wanted to seize the king's treasury? Thor continued probing. Where are they? Dead, Gilgamesh said flatly. They tried to control my body. I used the treasury to kill them all. War god Tyr raised an eyebrow upon hearing this, glanced at the damaged treasury in Gilgamesh's hand and gave Thor a look. The implication was clear. Gilgamesh was alone, so they might as well attack directly and seize the treasury from him. Thor didn't respond to him. After pondering for a long time, he nodded to Gilgamesh and said, The 4 of us were just passing by. We apologize for the disturbance. This statement startled the other 3 Norse gods. Before they could react, Thor had already transformed into a bolt of lightning and swiftly flew away. After a moment of hesitation, they followed, taking the captured numbers 03 and 04 with them. Watching these figures disappear on the horizon, Gilgamesh's face showed surprise. They just left like that? Lin Chia, who had secretly slipped into the water from the other side of the king turtle, asked in confusion. In his expectation, once Gilgamesh appeared, those deities would try to seize the king's treasury, and meanwhile he and Sun Wukong could secretly escape. When the star coin's maintenance time ended, Gilgamesh could escape the battle by returning to his soul state and go back to the divine mental hospital. But he never expected that the Norse gods would merely exchange a few words with Gilgamesh and then leave. Was Gilgamesh's deterrence that strong? Or did they have other plans? While Lin Chia was puzzled, the counterclockwise rotating star coin slowly stopped and began to rotate clockwise. The time for memory recreation ended. Gilgamesh in the sky dissolved into points of light and disappeared, his soul returning directly to the divine mental hospital in Lin Chia's mind. Lin Chia took one last look in the direction the 4 Norse gods had departed, then mounted the somersault cloud and sped away in the opposite direction with Sun Wukong. Why didn't you make a move just now? On the other side of the mist, several divine shadows crossed the sky, and the war god Tyr asked in confusion. His gate of Babylon is already damaged. Even in a one-on-one fight he might not be my match. Moreover, we have so many people. There's no need for that. Thor shook his head. As you said, the gate of Babylon is already damaged, and even if we seize the treasury, we don't have the corresponding laws to activate it. That being the case, why should we make an enemy of Gilgamesh? The situation in Asgard is chaotic enough now, with Odin missing, the gods in turmoil, and Loki attempting to usurp the throne to become the new god king. Making the hero king our enemy would only be detrimental to us. War god Tyr silently stared at him for a moment, then let out a long sigh. Though you're too casual. Loki has used all sorts of dirty tricks to compete with you for the position of God King. And there are many gods in Asgard who secretly support him. If we could seize the Gate of Babylon and obtain the numerous divine artifacts inside, our chances of winning would increase significantly. Do you really want to stand by and watch someone like Loki become the God King of Asgard? Thor remained silent, but his hands clenched tighter. However, our journey hasn't been completely fruitless, the blind god Hodder suddenly spoke. He grabbed number 22's collar, pulled him forward and took out the golden scepter and sword from his possession, saying calmly, "If my perception is correct, this should be Gilgamesh's royal scepter from years ago, which can steal divine power within a certain range for one's own use. It's a genuine, supreme, divine artifact. And that royal sword, although not very useful for us gods, might have miraculous effects at critical moments." A supreme, divine artifact. Thor's eyes lit up slightly. What about this proxy? Forest god Vidar glanced at number 22. Kill him, he knows too much, war god Tyr said abruptly. Number 22 trembled and hastily spoke. Wait. You can't kill me. This divine artifact can only be activated by Hero King Gilgamesh or someone with a special bloodline. In the world today, besides me, everyone with this bloodline is dead. Don't you need this divine artifact? I can help you. Hodder placed the scepter in his palm, carefully sensed it for a moment and nodded slightly. He's telling the truth. This divine artifact needs a bloodline. Then let's take him back to Asgard, Thor calmly said. Then, as if remembering something, he turned to look at number 22. By the way, did you see my proxy in the Gate of Babylon? His name is Cloud. Number 22's eyes flickered almost imperceptibly. No one knew Cloud's whereabouts better than him. After all, he had personally pierced the other's heart, offering Cloud as a sacrifice to the Holy Grail. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to wish away the mark and escape death. I saw him, but he was marked by this deity and died in the treasury. Number 22 pointed at number 03. Suddenly being called out, number 03's face changed. Already captured and now being accused of forcing the other's proxy to serve him and causing his death. Number 03 never imagined things would develop to this point. Almost forgot there are two more here, blind god Hodder spoke softly. How should we deal with them? Thor's face was extremely grim, with electric arcs dancing in his eyes as he stared at number 03. Kill them all. War god Tyr's lips curved slightly upward. No problem. Number 03 and number 04 felt as if they had fallen into an ice pit. A somersault cloud swept across the sea. Sun Wukong sat cross-legged on the edge of the cloud, his eyes fixed on the surrounding misty fog, his gaze incredibly complex. After 100 years he once again saw this mist, the mist that had buried his brothers and the entire heavenly court. His thoughts seemed to return to that moment before the national divine steel. The despair, sorrow, and anger from that time were like marks etched in time. Even after 100 years, even though he was no longer the victorious fighting Buddha, they had not faded. Great Xia, Sun Wukong murmured, clenching his fists. Monkey brother, are you thinking about Great Xia? Lin Chia sat down beside him. After tearing apart that Kasaya, some feelings seemed to have become stronger. Sun Wukong placed his right hand on his chest and slowly spoke. Lin Chia looked at the position of his heart and nodded. He had guessed earlier that the Kasaya, while giving Sun Wukong powerful Buddhist powers, had also sealed his worldly emotions. Now with the Kasaya destroyed, the emotions Sun Wukong had hidden deep in his heart for 100 years naturally surged out in a more intense way. Lin Chia couldn't imagine what kind of emotions those were. Sun Wukong seemed to think of something. After I leave the hospital, don't you still have one chance to extract my ability? That's right. Do it now. Sun Wukong paused. Let me tell you in advance, I don't have old man Merlin's tricks. I can't cheat for you. Whatever ability you get depends entirely on you. Lin Chia couldn't help but laugh. I know, I'll do it myself this time. Lin Chia sank his consciousness into the god's mental hospital. Under the hospital's self-repair function, the hospital that had been devastated by the battle between Sun Wukong and Gilgamesh had mostly recovered. The shattered courtyard had been largely leveled, the collapsed staff dormitories rebuilt, and the caregivers who had evacuated to the Iron Gate were unharmed, patting their chests in relief while cleaning up fallen debris around the hospital. Gilgamesh, back in his tattered gray robe, sat in the bare courtyard lost in thought. Gilgamesh. Lin Chia walked into the courtyard and called softly, "Gilgamesh?" Gilgamesh came to his senses and gave him a helpless look. This king has only forgotten the past, not become senile. Lin Chia scratched his head somewhat embarrassedly and asked curiously, "So how much have you forgotten now?" This king is not sure. Gilgamesh let out a long sigh. This king can no longer remember past memories. If not for the memories since arriving here, this king might not even remember his own name. Fortunately, this king has not forgotten you, Ruck. After we go back, I'll copy some historical materials about you. Although they'll be vague and partial, it's better than not remembering at all, Lin Chia said. Gilgamesh didn't refuse but asked directly, "Are you here to extract Sun Wukong's ability?" "Yes. You should still be able to extract one of my abilities now. Do it together." Lin Chia nodded, standing still in the courtyard. In the void before him, two ability wheels floated in front of him. Lin Chia hesitated, then first focused his gaze on Gilgamesh's ability wheel. Ultimate Kingship, Curse of All Beings, Guide to Governing Women, Sovereign Sword. Lin Chia calmly said, "Begin." As his words fell, the abilities on the wheel began to spin rapidly. To be honest, Lin Chia wasn't worried about this draw. After all, based on experiments with previous patients, the ability draw at 50% treatment progress was essentially guaranteed to give the core divine domain of the corresponding deity. Lin Chia already had a guess about which ability would ultimately be selected. After a long while, the pointer finally stopped on a certain ability. Final King's Law, Sovereign Divine Domain. Within the coverage of this divine domain, you are the absolute ruler. Any energy form not exceeding your strength will be forced to submit to you, including but not limited to forbidden domains, divine domains and items with field-type abilities. Through the King's Law, you can command these energies to a certain extent. For energies stronger than you, you can also interfere with them through the King's Law. The effectiveness of the interference depends on the power difference. Seeing this ability description, Lin Chia drew in a sharp breath. Although he had already guessed he would get this ability, actually seeing the description with his own eyes still made him marvel at how overpowered it was. Simply put, once Final King's Law was activated, he could interfere with all forbidden domains and even divine domains within range. Against opponents of lower or equal level, he could even take control of their forbidden domains. In Lin Chia's mind, he recalled the scene in Hell where his future self forcibly controlled the divine domain of the Seraph Uriel. So that was the Final King's Law. "What did you get?" Gilgamesh asked. "Final King's Law." "Very good." Gilgamesh nodded, seemingly quite satisfied. Lin Chia adjusted his mindset, returning from the joy of obtaining Final King's Law, and turned to look at the second ability wheel. This was Sun Wukong's final draw. Lin Chia took a deep breath. "Begin." As the wheel spun rapidly and the pointer passed over one ability after another, Lin Chia's heart tightened. Fiery golden eyes, diamond body, 3 heads 6 arms, soul projection, immobilization technique, boundary confinement. Under Lin Chia's tense gaze, the pointer slowly stopped at a spot on the wheel. Life-saving hairs? Lin Chia read out the 4 characters, standing stunned. What is this thing? Life-saving hairs. Gifted by Guanyin Bodhisattva. There are 3 in total, capable of preventing 3 fatal calamities. Lin Chia looked at this line back and forth 3 or 4 times before touching his chin with a strange expression. It had been a long time since he'd seen such a simple and straightforward description. Before the draw, Lin Chia had been hoping for powerful combat abilities like Diamond Body or 3 heads 6 arms. Getting a consumable survival ability instead was something he never expected. But it was fine. This ability, though lacking practical combat value, could save his life at critical moments. Nothing was more important than survival. Lin Chia extended his fingertip toward the 4 characters, and a warm current flowed into his body, condensing into 3 snow-white hairs at the nape of his neck. Lin Chia reached back to touch the hairs, which felt somewhat cool, but otherwise were no different from other hair. Just as Lin Chia was about to leave the hospital, Gilgamesh suddenly called out to him. "Wait." Lin Chia turned back puzzled. Gilgamesh made a grasping motion in the void, and a miniature version of a broken treasury appeared in his palm. This treasury was formed from part of his sovereign law, and even though his physical body had returned to spirit form, it could enter the divine mental hospital with him. The king's treasury? Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. How is it? Very bad. The treasury itself is shattered and its abilities have basically failed. It cannot be restored in the short term and can only be repaired bit by bit through the law. Gilgamesh raised a finger and 2 beams of light flew out from the treasury, landing before Lin Chia. They were a dark gold goblet containing a small amount of crimson liquid and a light blue coin. The Holy Grail and the star coin? Lin Chia was startled. After the treasury shattered, many divine artifacts went missing, including the scepter and the sword. They were likely stolen and taken away. Gilgamesh paused. Since I am confined to this hospital and cannot leave, I'll temporarily give you these 2 artifacts for protection. The Holy Grail has absorbed the life force of the 3 Sumerian gods, enough for 1 or 2 more major wishes. You know the ability of the star coin, but its side effects are too severe. Try not to use it unless absolutely necessary. As for other artifacts, they all require divine power to activate. Even if I wanted to give them to you, you couldn't use them. Lin Chia's expression brightened as he took the Holy Grail and the star coin. Thank you. Don't thank me. Gilgamesh seemed to remember something, his expression becoming somewhat strange. He opened his mouth, appearing hesitant. What's wrong? Lin Chia asked curiously. I just used the star coin. Seeing Gilgamesh's expression, Lin Chia suddenly realized something. Misfortune. Correct. The side effect of the star coin is something even I might not be able to withstand. Fortunately, I am in this hospital, so even if there is danger, it will be reduced to a minimum by the hospital and shouldn't threaten my life. However, the misfortune won't disappear. What do you mean? The misfortune will seek me out, but I'm hiding in this hospital and this hospital is in your mind. Lin Chia was stunned, his mouth uncontrollably opening wide. You mean it might fall on me? Not fall, it's more like a diversion? You might share this side effect with me, but neither of us will experience it too strongly. Gilgamesh tried to reassure him. After a brief silence, Lin Chia sighed and resignedly said, I understand. I'll be careful. There was no choice, after all, the hospital was in his mind. Gilgamesh had used that star coin to help them out of trouble, so it was only right that he bear some of the side effects. Lin Chia's consciousness left the divine mental hospital. After Lin Chia left, Gilgamesh slowly stood up from the courtyard, patted his gray robe and walked directly toward his own ward. Just then, an explosion sounded from the kitchen on the first floor. Not good, too much fire came out. A caretaker's alarmed cry followed. The next moment, a hot pot full of garlic cloves and uncooked vegetable leaves came whistling out from the corridor, landing precisely on the head of Gilgamesh as he was passing by. Lin Chia's consciousness returned to reality as he slowly opened his eyes. What did you draw? Sun Wukong asked. Life-saving fur. What thing? Life-saving fur, Lin Chia repeated. It's what Guanyin Bodhisattva bestowed upon you back then. Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong's expression was incredibly strange. After a moment he reluctantly nodded. That's fine. At least it can save your life a few times. The two fell into silence. Lin Chia, Sun Wukong hesitated for a moment before speaking. What is it, Monkey King? Thank you for taking care of me during my time at the hospital. If it weren't for you, I might never have been able to walk out of that hospital door in this lifetime. I'm not Nyx or Merlin, I don't have any family wealth or background. I've been alone all these years, so even after leaving the hospital, I don't have anything to give you as a gift. Sun Wukong paused for a moment, then said seriously, however, I can give you a promise. As long as I'm alive, as long as you're within my sight, no one will be able to kill you, not even the supreme ones. Sun Wukong's eyes gazed into the distance, his tone very calm, yet conveying an indescribable determination and confidence. Lin Chia was stunned, then smiled bitterly. Monkey King, we're on the same side, there's no need for this. I'm not as fragile as you think on this journey. It's different, Sun Wukong shook his head. Before you were too weak, only able to operate within Dasha's borders, and the dangers in the mist could hardly threaten you. But the stronger you become, the more people will target you. The secrets of the gods' mental hospital will eventually be discovered by the outer gods. When that happens, you'll truly be in danger. Lin Chia opened his mouth, wanting to say something more, but ultimately fell silent. Time passed bit by bit. Lin Chia rode on the somersault cloud as they flew over the sea. While appearing calm on the surface, he remained vigilant of his surroundings. Having already experienced the side effects of the star coin, he was now 1,000 times more alert. Although he didn't know when Gilgamesh's misfortune would be diverted to him, he definitely didn't want to experience being struck by lightning more than a dozen times again. After some time, a rumbling sound came from the distance. Sun Wukong frowned and turned toward the direction of the sound. Enemies. Lin Chia, whose alertness was at maximum, quickly stood up from the somersault cloud. Sun Wukong narrowed his eyes, golden light appearing in their depths. It's a white-haired woman sitting on a strange metal block rapidly approaching. No, that's not a metal block. A white-haired woman? Metal block. Lin Chia heard Sun Wukong's description with confusion and extended his spiritual power to its limit. At the edge of the horizon, countless pixels frantically stacked together, constructing an infinitely extending highway. At the forefront of the highway, a McLaren with apocalyptic paint was roaring forward at an astonishing speed. Lin Chia's mouth fell open in shock. He was all too familiar with that apocalyptically painted McLaren. Back in Japan's human circle, he had driven this very car to destroy Osaka. Genian. Lin Chia grabbed Sun Wukong, who was holding his golden cudgel and preparing to attack the McLaren. Monkey King, she's one of us. Sun Wukong raised an eyebrow and quietly sat back down. Lin Chia steered the somersault cloud directly toward the apocalyptic McLaren. As the car's silhouette grew larger in his vision, he reached out and waved. Genian. Screech. The sharp sound of tires against the ground instantly echoed through the mist. Genian's hands moved rapidly in the driver's seat, and the entire McLaren drifted half a circle on the highway, coming to an abrupt stop at the edge. A slender white leg kicked the door open with a bang, and Genian, wearing a tattered coat, walked out of the car furiously. Lin Chia. Do you have a death wish? Don't you know how dangerous it is to act on your own? You haven't even reached the ceiling yet, and you're trying to steal from the king's treasury from Olympus. Couldn't you have returned to Utopia? To find me first? What's the matter? Am I, the president of the upper evil society, a burden to you? If you had brought me along, I would have charged into the king's treasury with you and slaughtered everyone, whether they're from Olympus or the Alps. Wouldn't that be better than you taking risks alone? If you accidentally get killed, how am I supposed to get home? Genian stood on the highway with her hands on her hips, her expression serious and angry, unleashing a barrage of words at Lin Chia as he descended on the cloud. Just then her gaze fell on Sun Wukong beside Lin Chia, who was carrying the golden cudgel on his shoulder and wearing golden chain armor. Her mouth, which had been wide open, suddenly froze in mid-air. She blinked hard to confirm she wasn't dreaming, and her expression changed from blank to shocked and then to wild joy. Holy! She instinctively opened her mouth, about to utter a crude expression. But halfway through she realized it was inappropriate. She awkwardly coughed twice, gently brushed her silver-white hair behind her ear and respectfully said, "Hello, great sage, I'm your fan. May I have your autograph?" Lin Chia. Who is she? Sun Wukong looked at Lin Chia with confusion. A friend. Lin Chia's mouth twitched slightly, and after a moment he added, also the previous director of the God's Mental Hospital. Hearing the latter part, Sun Wukong's eyebrows rose and he looked at Genian with surprise. Hello, great sage, my name is Genian. Genian eagerly stepped forward and shook hands with Sun Wukong. Even though she was trying to restrain herself, the wild joy in her eyes was almost palpable. Hello, you can let go now. Oh yes, sorry. Genian came to her senses and apologized repeatedly, obediently retreating to Lin Chia's side. What's going on? When did the great sage get out? Didn't I ask you to get me an autograph? She asked in a lowered voice. About 10 minutes ago, and we've been fighting since then. Where would I find time for autographs? Fighting? With whom? It's complicated, I'll explain as we go. All right. Lin Chia summoned the somersault cloud again, carrying Sun Wukong and Genian as they continued flying forward. So, along the way you encountered 9 gods from Asgard, Olympus and the Sumerian pantheon? After hearing the whole story, Jinyan's brows furrowed tightly. If you wanted to steal the king's treasury, why couldn't you find me first? It's too dangerous for you to go alone. There wasn't enough time. If I had waited for you to come, the treasury might have already fallen into someone else's hands, and Gilgamesh's illness would have been completely incurable. Lin Chia spread his hands helplessly. After listening to Lin Chia's explanation, Jinyan sighed helplessly. Fortunately, Gilgamesh's root illness has been eliminated, and his subsequent recovery should be relatively quick. But what about that Yeland? What's his situation exactly? I don't know. I haven't found the root of his illness yet and we can't communicate at all. Lin Chia shook his head. What a troublesome situation. While the two were chatting, Sun Wukong sat silently nearby, occasionally glancing at Jinyan from the corner of his eye, as if contemplating something. Monkey King, what's wrong? Lin Chia noticed Sun Wukong's unusual behavior and asked proactively. Sun Wukong paused for a moment then said to Jinyan. You are special. Thank you for the compliment, great sage. Jinyan's eyes sparkled like stars. Are you sure he was complimenting you? But the great sage said I'm special. Isn't that a compliment? Lin Chia was momentarily speechless. He turned to look at Sun Wukong. Monkey King, what did you notice? She's strong. Although she hasn't become a god from a human perspective, she is still very powerful, Sun Wukong said seriously, his eyes flashing with golden light. Even I can't quite see through her. Jinyan scratched her head, somewhat embarrassed. That counts as a compliment, right? Yes, it does. Sun Wukong examined Jinyan for a long time before withdrawing his gaze. When are you returning to Great Xia? Sun Wukong turned to Lin Chia and asked. Lin Chia thought for a moment and said, I can't go back yet. At the very least, I need to return to Utopia. First, regroup with my brothers and then find Master Sword Saint. It will probably take a few more days. After listening, Sun Wukong remained silent for a moment, glancing toward the direction of Great Xia shrouded in mist. Since she's accompanying you even in the mist, you shouldn't face too much danger unless you encounter extreme situations. I want to return to Great Xia first. Lin Chia was stunned. Seeing the faint light flickering in Sun Wukong's eyes, he felt a slight movement in his heart and nodded, saying, All right, Monkey King, you go ahead. With you there, Great Xia will be safer. Jinyan's expression gradually became serious and she also spoke. If Monkey King can return, it would indeed be good news for Great Xia right now. Though it was just an ordinary statement, Lin Chia detected a hint of tension in her voice. Could something have happened in Great Xia during the days he was away? Sun Wukong grunted in acknowledgement and slowly stood up from the somersault cloud. Be careful in the mist. I'll wait for you in Great Xia. Sun Wukong patted his shoulder, summoned a massive somersault cloud, and instantly disappeared from their sight. Lin Chia watched Sun Wukong leave, then continued to propel the somersault cloud, flying aimlessly over the sea. He asked curiously, What did you mean by what you just said? Has something happened in Great Xia these past 2 days? Sort of. Jinyan sighed and took out the pixelated walkie-talkie from her pocket. Just yesterday Zhuo Qing contacted me directly. What did he say? You can ask him yourself. One of the reasons he contacted me was to find you. Commander Zhuo wants to find me? Lin Chia was surprised. The Nightfall team had entered the mist on missions before, but this was the first time Zhuo Qing had actively tried to contact him during a mission. Lin Chia took the pixelated walkie-talkie and after a moment's hesitation, pressed the button. This is Lin Chia. Slight static noise came from the walkie-talkie. Lin Chia sat on the somersault cloud holding the walkie-talkie waiting for a long time. When there was still no reply from the other end and he was about to speak again, a somewhat tired voice came through. Lin Chia, this is Zhuo Qing. Lin Chia's eyes brightened. Commander Zhuo, you were looking for me? Yes. Yesterday, Jinyan told me you went to snatch the king's treasury from the Olympian gods? Are you all right? I'm fine, made it back in one piece. Lin Chia smiled wryly. That's good. Zhuo Qing paused for a moment, then continued. Recently, how much do you know about the situation with the Norse gods? Lin Chia was taken aback. The Norse gods? Has something happened to them? It seems you don't know anything yet. Let me explain everything from the beginning. Suiqing took a deep breath and slowly began. Recently, Asgard has fallen into a succession crisis. A succession crisis? Lin Chia quickly thought of something. Is it because of Odin? Yes. After the celestial master confronted the Norse gods, exposed Odin's true nature and banished him, the position of God King became vacant, and Asgard has been leaderless ever since. Logically, when the God King's position becomes vacant, it should be inherited by Odin's son Thor. However, at the same time Loki, the Norse god of mischief, suddenly announced his claim to the God King's throne, presenting a letter Odin left behind several years ago. Loki. Upon hearing this name, Lin Chia's eyes sharpened. His grudge with Loki was no small matter. The disappearance of Tsongnon, the counterattack of the Egyptian gods, the crisis of the national divine steel. One could say there was a sea of blood and hatred between all of Great Xia and Loki. If Loki were to ascend to the position of God King and take control of Asgard, it was foreseeable what kind of disaster this would be for Great Xia. Loki had a close relationship with Odin. In terms of both status and seniority, he has the qualifications to compete for the God King position. With that letter and the arrangements he secretly made in his early years, there are now many in Asgard who support Loki becoming God King. But equally, there are also those who believe that Odin was controlled by the Cthulhu gods, and the letter he left cannot influence the succession to the God King's position. Moreover, given Loki's notorious reputation, many suspect that he forged the letter himself. In short, the entire Asgard is now divided into two camps, fighting and killing each other. Lin Chia hesitated for a moment before asking, "Isn't this a good thing for Great Xia?" The internal strife of the outer gods was something Great Xia would be happy to see. Previously, Nyx's return had caused internal conflict in Olympus, greatly reducing the pressure on Great Xia during the war. Now that Asgard has fallen into internal strife, it also means that in the short term, the Norse gods would find it difficult to pose a threat to Great Xia. If it were just simple internal strife, then yes, it would be a good thing. But just yesterday, Loki announced that he is about to attempt to break through to the supreme realm in Asgard. Suiqing's voice was extremely solemn. The reason Asgard was so powerful in the past was because they had Odin, the strongest fighter on the surface. So the most important criterion for the God King position in Asgard is actually the king's strength. They are a divine nation that worships individual heroism. Objectively speaking, as both are major gods, Loki and Thor have about equal chances in the struggle for the throne. But if Loki truly breaks through to the supreme realm, disrupting the balance of power between them, then this battle for the God King position will truly have no suspense. Hearing this, Lin Chia understood what Suiqing meant. Internal strife in Asgard was indeed a situation that Xia would like to see. But if Loki ascended to the supreme god realm so quickly, Thor would lose his qualification to become the God King, and the internal conflict would immediately cease. At that time, Asgard would once again become a complete divine realm, and it would be led by Xia's mortal enemy Loki. This was the worst-case scenario. So, no matter what, we cannot let Loki successfully reach the supreme realm. Suiqing's voice was extremely serious from the other end of the pixel communicator. Lin Chia nodded. What should we do? Kill him in advance. The location where Loki will attempt to reach the supreme realm is in Asgard, and he won't leave there before becoming supreme. And Asgard is not like Egypt's Sun City. Apart from Odin, most of the gods are at full strength and its geographical location is very special. Even if all the gods of the heavenly court went all out, it would be difficult to breach it in a short time. Moreover, it's no longer the time when Xia's gods first emerged. Back then, destroying Egypt's Sun City had a 30% chance of success due to the suddenness of the heavenly court's surprise attack. It was a risky move, but this method cannot be replicated now. If Xia's gods engage in prolonged warfare with the divine realm overseas, other forces will inevitably intervene, or even attack the unguarded Xia. So trying to defeat Asgard head-on with the power of Xia's gods is impossible. We need a special force. A special force. We need someone to infiltrate Asgard before Loki ascends to the supreme realm, dismantle its defenses from within, and create an opportunity for Xia's surprise attack. And in the current mist, the only ones who have a chance of accomplishing this are the Upper Evil Society and the Nightfall team. Lin Chia was stunned and looked up at Jinyan. Jinyan shook her head helplessly. The problem is, until now, I haven't found an entry point to infiltrate. Loki is too vigilant. He has completely cut off all external passages into Asgard. The only way is to go through Asgard's human circle and gradually infiltrate, but this approach is too risky, and it's unclear how long it would take. It's possible that by the time we sneak in, Loki would have already become supreme. As Jin Yen finished speaking, all three fell silent. Lin Chia, do you have any ideas? Zhuo Qing's voice came through the communicator. Lin Chia smiled bitterly. If even the upper evil society can't find a way in, what method could I possibly have? I've never been to Asgard and about that place. Lin Chia stopped mid-sentence, suddenly freezing in place. What's wrong? Jin Yen asked, puzzled. Lin Chia closed his mouth, remained silent for a long time, and slowly pulled out a dark golden goblet from his chest. Inside the ornate cup, a crimson liquid was gently swirling along the walls. Perhaps. I really do have a way, Lin Chia murmured, looking at the Holy Grail. What is this? Jin Yen asked, confused. The Holy Grail, Lin Chia calmly explained. A supreme artifact that can fulfill any wish if you offer a sacrifice. I brought it out from the king's treasury. Right now it contains 3 main god-level beings as sacrifices. Jin Yen's mouth opened wider and wider. That's so overpowered. How did you get your hands on it? It's a long story. But with this thing we might be able to easily infiltrate Asgard. Lin Chia frowned deeply, seemingly pondering something seriously. If it can help us get in, what are you still thinking about? I'm wondering if the sacrifices in here are enough for me to directly wish for Loki's sudden death. Lin Chia answered seriously. Jin Yen, hashtag. Well, is it possible? She asked cautiously. Lin Chia held the Holy Grail, carefully sensing for a moment, then shook his head. No. Using a wish to kill a god is too costly, especially when the target is Loki, the god of mischief. Who knows how many fake death escape methods he has? Jin Yen sighed with some disappointment. Our target this time is not just Loki, Zhuo Qing said solemnly. Our target is the entire Asgard. In the game between divine realms, the Holy Grail might indeed have a miraculous effect, but relying on it to directly determine the outcome is probably not that simple. Lin Chia nodded. That the Holy Grail is just an aid, the rest depends on human effort. By the way, Zhuo Qing seemed to remember something. Lin Chia, Wang Mian asked me to pass a message to you. Wang Mian? What message? He said, he has found information about a deity who can greatly accelerate the flow of time as you requested. Hearing these words, Lin Chia's heart trembled. In his mind, Jia Lan's sleeping face immediately appeared. Even before returning to Disya, Lin Chia had asked Wang Mian to search for deities who could awaken Jia Lan early. Now after all this time they finally had a lead. Did this mean that Jia Lan was not far from waking up? Where? Lin Chia asked eagerly. There is only one deity in the world who controls the law of time flow, and that is Skuld, the goddess of the future, one of the 3 Norse fates. The 3 fates. Skuld. Lin Chia murmured the name, then smiled helplessly. It seems I have no choice but to go to Asgard. Are you done talking? My communicator is about to give out. Jin Yen noticed the static in the communicator getting louder and quickly spoke up. That's the general situation. Zhuo Qing took a deep breath and said solemnly. Whether Disya can create another miracle in this war depends on you. It takes time to travel from Disya to Asgard. Once you've established yourselves in Asgard and determined when to act, be sure to contact me via communicator one day in advance. Then you just need to complete your mission according to the plan. The rest will be handled by Disya. As Zhuo Qing finished speaking, the pixel communicator's operational time completely ended, and a flood of static came through, echoing in the mist. Lin Chia silently put down the communicator and after a long while, let out a deep sigh. What's wrong? Nothing. Just feeling a bit pressured, Lin Chia said bitterly. The future of Disya in this war depends on this. If I fail in the end. Don't be so pessimistic, you're Lin Chia. Besides, you still have me, right? Jin Yen patted her chest and said proudly, don't worry, causing destruction is what this president does best. Lin Chia smiled, his gaze falling on the pixel communicator in his palm, feeling an immense weight at that moment. Lin Chia seemed to remember something. By the way, how are Qingyu, Pang Pang and the others doing? When this topic came up, Jin Yan's gaze toward Lin Chia became strange. Did something happen to them? Lin Chia asked cautiously upon seeing this. Nothing happened to them, but Utopia is about to have problems, Jin Yan replied irritably. That Qingyu is simply a monster. In just a few days he's dissected almost all the mysterious corpses in the department. Not only has he broken through to the Klein level, but his mental power is also increasing rapidly. I can barely see through him anymore. If this continues, I feel he's not far from reaching the human ceiling. And that girl called Jiang Air, she somehow infiltrated our internal network and updated the entire system. Now the people in my tech department practically worship those two as gods, they're just short of kneeling before them. And Qingyu has become that strong already? Lin Chia felt delighted and then asked, what about Pang Pang and Chao Yuan? Those two are doing quite well. Jin Yan's mouth twitched slightly. Put it this way, there's no one at Utopia, S Nightlife, who doesn't know these two now. They drink and chat with members of my evil council every day, calling each other brothers. I'm afraid that someday with just one command from them, they'll lure away all my subordinates. Hearing this, Lin Chia was completely reassured. This could be considered as each of them shining in their own fields. Do they know about your coming here? I didn't tell them, Jin Yan shrugged. You're up against deities, and even if they came, they wouldn't be much help. For a rescue and escape mission like this, the fewer people involved, the better. Besides, my car can only fit 2 people. Thank you, Lin Chia said sincerely. Jin Yan not bringing Qingyu and the others was also a form of protection. If they knew he was in danger, they would certainly rush over regardless of consequences, and what might happen in the ensuing chaos would be unpredictable. What are your plans now? Jin Yan asked. First return to Utopia. Adjust my condition, then use the Holy Grail to enter Asgard and find an opportunity to complete the mission, Lin Chia calmly replied. That's good. After barely escaping from several deities, you should indeed rest. After speaking, Jin Yan lay down on the soft somersault cloud, took a deep breath, expressing indescribable comfort and relaxation. She glanced at Lin Chia, who sat upright beside her as if facing a great enemy, and asked puzzledly, why are you so tense? It's nothing, I just have an ominous feeling. Lin Chia looked around, muttering, why hasn't it come yet? It had been almost 20 minutes since Gilgamesh used the star coin, but so far there was no sign of misfortune appearing around him. Theoretically this was a good thing, but the more peaceful it was, the more uneasy Lin Chia felt. Could this misfortune be accumulating for something big? Lin Chia thought to himself. Young man, relax. Jin Yan leisurely crossed her legs, watching the clouds drifting in the sky, and spoke unhurriedly. I am the evil council leader, the human ceiling. In this mist, even if we encounter deities blocking our way, as long as there aren't more than 3, I can help you escape. Before she finished speaking, several roaring sounds came from the distance. 4 streaks of light pierced through the thick clouds, flying straight toward them from the front. Holy shit! Jin Yan sensed those 4 auras and suddenly sat up from the cloud, her mouth wide open in shock. For gods! What kind of terrible luck is this? Lin Chia's heart sank. Those 4 figures were hidden within the streaks of light, their appearances unclear. They were moving too fast and heading straight for them, making it too late to change direction. Lin Chia had no time to think further. A magical light flashed over his body, and he transformed back into Miles' appearance. Currently, Daxia was at war with many divine nations. Appearing before deities with a Daxia appearance would be too conspicuous and might result in him being captured by foreign gods for interrogation about Daxia's secrets. Additionally, with his dual divine agent identity, if discovered, he would certainly face a terrible fate. Damn, you can transform? What about me? Quick, help me transform too. Having witnessed Lin Chia's transformation, Jin Yan urgently spoke up. My transformation magic can only be used on myself, Lin Chia replied helplessly. Jin Yan. In her urgency, she quickly crafted a white mask from pixels to cover her face. Lin Chia's eyes were fixed on those 4 figures, hoping they would ignore him and Jin Yan and leave. Unfortunately, the 4 figures slowly came to a stop. As they approached, Lin Chia recognized the 4 familiar figures, and his mouth involuntarily fell open. Thor the thunder god, Hodder the blind god, Tyr the war god, and Vidar the forest god. These were the Asgardian deities who had been frightened away by Gilgamesh earlier. How could it be them? He had initially flown in the opposite direction, and even though he later flew aimlessly, how could they possibly meet like this? This misfortune had been holding back, and it was indeed brewing something big. Lin Chia's gaze continued to move backward, finally seeing number 22 following behind Vidar the forest god. This is bad. He's here too. It's worth noting that number 22 knew the Miles' identity. If he exposed him, things would become very troublesome. While Lin Chia's mind was racing, the four figures stopped above the sea surface, looking down at the two humans below. Who are you? Thor asked in a deep voice. Behind the four deities, number 22 immediately spotted Lin Chia. He was startled at first, then a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. I know. Number 22 suddenly spoke up. He is. Number 22 stopped mid-sentence. He examined Lin Chia, his eyes flickering slightly as if contemplating something. He is the agent of Merlin, god of prophecy and magic, named Miles, number 22 slowly said. Lin Chia, who had been prepared for a desperate fight, suddenly froze, looking at number 22 with confusion. Why didn't he expose him? Merlin, god of prophecy and magic? There seemed to recall something. I've heard of him, the founder of prophecy arts. His prophecy skills are extremely powerful. Number 22 exclaimed. Originally, like me, he was also targeted by those two Olympian deities, but using his prophecy arts, he foresaw everything and set up a situation where we agents and the two deities would fight each other while he escaped early. He reached the king's treasury first, saw through the Sumerian pantheon's tricks with his prophecy arts, and escaped beforehand. Not just us agents, but even those two Olympian gods and three Sumerian gods were all manipulated by him. Lord Thor, this Miles is definitely a rare talent in prophecy arts. Hearing 22's words, the four Asgardian gods simultaneously examined Lin Chia with curiosity. Prophecy that toys with gods? Vidar seemed to recall something, his eyes narrowing slightly. At the same time, Lin Chia quickly realized what was happening, his expression turning extremely unpleasant. He seemed to understand what 22 was trying to do. You're Miles, right? War god Tyr pondered for a moment. Where is Merlin, the god of prophecy and magic whom you represent now? The old man has gone to pursue the truth of the world, probably not on Earth anymore, Lin Chia answered truthfully. That's good. War god Tyr stepped forward, his hand gripping Lin Chia's shoulder like an iron clamp firmly locking onto his body. Surging divine power poured into Lin Chia, instantly immobilizing him. Beads of sweat rolled down his temples as he instinctively wanted to counter with the pressure of gods like the Seraph, but quickly controlled himself. Tyr, what are you doing? Thor frowned upon seeing this. After Odin's alliance with the Cthulhu gods was exposed and he fled, Mother became mentally unstable and secluded herself in the palace, ignoring outside affairs. Besides the three goddesses, Asgard has no other gods capable of prophecy. And the three goddesses always maintain neutrality, refusing to intervene in our affairs with Loki or make prophecies for us. This young man's prophetic abilities come from Merlin, the originator of prophecy, and it seems he can predict divine movements to some extent. This is extremely important for us right now. War god Tyr explained slowly. Thor opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but after hesitating for a long time he closed it again. Tyr was right. In their current situation, they desperately needed someone who could prophesy divine movements. Even vague prophecies were better than none. Let him go first. Thor grabbed Tyr's wrist and removed it from Lin Chia, who immediately felt the pressure disappear and involuntarily stepped back. Miles, right? Don't be nervous. Thor's deep blue eyes gazed at him steadily. Would you be interested in coming back to Asgard with me? Though phrased as a question, the other gods seemed unwilling to give Lin Chia more options. Feeling the gazes of war god Tyr, blind god Hodder and forest god Vidar upon him, Lin Chia felt cold sweat running down his back. It seemed that if he uttered a single no, Tyr would cut off his limbs with one sword strike and forcibly take him to Asgard as a limbless torso. 22's lips curled up slightly as if he had anticipated this scene. Lin Chia glanced at Genian beside him, who blinked at him. All right. Countless thoughts flashed through Lin Chia's mind like lightning before he finally nodded in agreement. In truth, Lin Chia wasn't without options. By using the Holy Grail to make a wish, he and Genien could easily escape from the four gods, but doing so would consume a large amount of sacrificial offerings. Even if they escaped, they might not be able to infiltrate Asgard again using the Holy Grail. Since Thor wanted to treat him as a subordinate and directly bring him into Asgard, it was better to go with the flow. Not only could he enter Asgard openly, but he could also save the Holy Grail, sacrificial offerings for future use. Hearing Lin Chia's agreement, Thor nodded with satisfaction and was about to say something more when blind god Hodder suddenly looked toward Genien beside him. "And who are you?" Genien, wearing a white mask, lowered her head and remained silent. "She is my..." Lin Chia immediately spoke up. Before he could finish his sentence, Hodder let out a cold laugh and extended his right hand like lightning, smashing toward Genien's face. Genien reacted extremely quickly, swiftly retreating, but they were too close. The hurricane stirred up by Hodder's hand was like a blade, instantly cutting through her mask and leaving a faint bloody mark on her forehead. As the mask shattered, silver-white hair and a stunningly beautiful face were exposed to the air. Genien's expression turned extremely grim. "I remember you. You're the intruder who infiltrated Asgard 2 years ago," blind god Hodder spoke calmly. "I locked onto you before you escaped the Bifrost. An intruder from 2 years ago?" The other 3 Asgardian gods' expressions tightened. Genien gritted her teeth, raised her fingertips, and the sea surface beneath her feet instantly dissolved into countless pixels that surged upward, engulfing her form. The swirling pixels in the sky transformed into the shape of an aircraft. Roaring pixel flames erupted from its tail, and with a sonic boom, it flew several kilometers away in an instant. Trying to escape, Thor forcefully hurled his silver hammer into the sky. The next moment, a lightning bolt tens of meters thick tore through space, precisely striking the aircraft. Boom! Rolling thick smoke rose from the faltering aircraft's surface as numerous pixels surged up from the sea to repair the damaged structure. Simultaneously, 3 divine figures flew out in succession. Boiling divine power collided with the pixels filling the sky. In less than half a minute, blind god Hodder escorted the injured Genien back to Thor. "How should we handle this? If you have the guts, just kill me." Genien raised her blood-stained face proudly. "Kill me and you'll never find Gyllerhorn." Thor frowned slightly, pondering for a moment. "Take her back to Asgard for thorough interrogation. We must recover Gyllerhorn." Hodder nodded, and a darkness like a swimming snake emerged from his sleeve, transforming into a long rope that tightly bound Genien's wrists. "You were about to say she is your what?" War god Tyr narrowed his eyes, staring into Lin Chia's eyes. Except for Thor, the other gods looked at him with unfriendly gazes. This woman had stolen the divine artifact Gyllerhorn from Asgard 2 years ago and was a wanted criminal by all Norse gods. "Now you're connected to her?" Cold sweat ran down Lin Chia's back. Indeed, the misfortune brought by the coin wasn't going to end so easily. Lin Chia paused, then continued, "She is my client." "Client?" "She came to me seeking prophecies about certain matters. We hadn't even completed our transaction when we encountered you all." Lin Chia quickly crafted a lie based on his identity. War god Tyr's frown deepened as he stared intently at Lin Chia's eyes, which flickered with faint light. After a moment he slowly turned his head. "Thor, this smiles might be problematic." Thor glanced at him, thinking for a long time. "Take him back to Asgard and lock him up first. After we finish interrogating this woman and confirm they have no connection, then we'll use his prophecies." Tyr nodded and gave Lin Chia a threatening look before following Thor and the others, holding Genien captive. As they turned away, Genien, who had been keeping her head down, suddenly raised it slightly and managed to wink at Lin Chia. The corners of her mouth curled into a smile of successful scheming.